Thank you for attending my talk. I can't see who's there, but I'm hoping some people have, well, I know some people have attended. Anyway, thank you regarding the invitation to talk today at what is my third World Autism Congress talk, as I spoke at South Africa 2006 and Mexico 2010. This is an honor as well as privilege. I will talk about my life prior I was diagnosed.
Yes, just share your screen,
Oh,
please.
sorry.
It's okay. I'll tell you when we see it, okay?
Thank you regarding the invitation to talk today at what is my third Autism Congress, World Autism Congress, as I spoke at different congresses at Mexico and South Africa, World Autism Congress, Mexico 2010, South Africa 2006, and different congresses. I helped out as well. This is honor. This is an honor as well as a privilege. I will talk about my life prior I was diagnosed. My diagnosis, pardon me, how my diagnosis has helped my life. There will be no overlap at this time. Sorry, there will be no overlap at times at my talk regarding these three separate things. And I haven't got that many slides. It's more of a talk than presentation, but there are some slides you can follow. There will be an overlap, like I say. Sorry. I can understand words literally as well as say things at a literal sense. Examples are I can say phrases such as possibly, probably, likely, possibly less often than phrases such as this definitely happened. You may want to remember that as you talk, as you listen to my talk. A little background about my family. I'm the youngest sibling of my family of two brothers. One unfortunately died prior I was born. He's still my brother. He suffered cystic fibrosis. Asperger syndrome is not an illness. Sometimes it's called an illness, but it's not an illness. This said, I suffered rare illnesses as well as Asperger's. I don't know if, well, Asperger's isn't an illness, but I've suffered rare illnesses myself. I don't know if autism can attract rare illnesses, or if at a family, or if at one family there's an illness, like my brother had cystic fibrosis, that can more likely mean to be more illnesses. I don't know the stats or numbers. It's just I notice this could be a possibility. I was not diagnosed till I was 23. When I was a child, I was told I was a good checker. So I'm just moving the slides on. I was told I was a good checker. My dad said I was a good checker. I'm not blaming him, as he was just saying the truth. But I'll never know if, pardon me, him saying I was a good checker meant any difference to my checking behaviour, as checking is still a prominent feature of my life as an adult. What he said may have encouraged my checking behaviour, although, as I say, I'm not blaming him, as he could have not loved me more. It can be a good thing I'm a good checker, as mistakes are less likely as I check things more, although, ironically, the more I check, this can mean I'm less likely to notice something. If I check something to like excessive point, you can almost introduce a mistake. When I was a child, I remember my mum being exasperated a bit when I was asking or saying something repeatedly. However, I should be clear, all my family love me, and however, anxiety can be exasperating all the same. When I was at school, when there was a choice about the work, I recall noting at least once I chose the easier work. I mean, I might not remember choosing the easier work, but I remember noting I chose the easier work. But that's quite a literal thing. I believe this childhood decision was about my, at the time, not diagnosed mild Asperger syndrome, as well as obsessional anxiety. I believe this was specifically linked to my liking to know what to expect as an adult, and my not wanting to be at the wrong, which is linked to how I say things or write things as an adult. Pardon me. And I didn't put this in the notes, sorry, but it's also linked to I might share an anxiety about something I'm worrying about at work, which might not matter, but it might be the underlying thing is I might worry about I might have done something wrong. As I said, I can say words or phrases such as likely, possibly, probably. Two, as my mum said or wrote, avoid the possibility of being inaccurate. I wrote when I was preparing a talk, my mum said or wrote, as it can be more literal than is necessary. They said, I know it doesn't matter if a mum said or wrote what she said or wrote, because it was a thing. Even if you said it or wrote it, it doesn't really matter. But that's how literal I can be. As an adult now, I like to attend football. This is an example. This is an example of my life where you know what to expect. Well, you know what time the fixture starts. You know what half time is. You know what time half time is. You know approximately what to expect about what is available at each football ground, although they are a bit different. You don't know what time a team is going to score or if they will score. At England, they can alter the fixtures regarding television coverage, which cannot help somebody. Pardon me, sorry. If they alter the times of the fixtures or days of the fixtures regarding TV coverage, that might not help. But you know approximately what time. You know approximately what to expect once you know what time a fixture is going to start. What I mean is, you know what time half time is, and you know what time full time is, and that can help socially if I'm going to a match, a football fixture with other people. It gives a certain structure. These things can help, as there's a certain routine when there is not the same routine if I'm just going to a party or a walk. I do enjoy those things, but there's less routine about what time things are going to start and finish, or not necessarily what time's going to start, what time's going to finish. If I visited the same football ground or stadium in the past, I know what food should be available as well as when this will be available. However, COVID can affect those things. As I watched local football, I noticed certain people stood at the same approximate place at the football ground. I don't know if this meant they were somewhere at the autistic spectrum themselves, although likewise I don't know if this means they were not at the spectrum. I often watch the same football team, which could be linked to my mild Asperger syndrome. I often watch the same football team almost or to I often watch the same team almost or to an obsessive point. I don't just mean when the team is at our home ground, as I've moved since I live much nearer the home ground. I travel to the home fixtures. So sometimes when a team's not playing at home, it can be closer to my home. Because I watch a team called Studley, which you won't have heard of probably if you're in Serbia. But when they're not at home, sometimes it's closer to my home because I've moved away from where they are, but I still go to watch them. When I was writing this, the team had completed 18 fixtures this season, if you don't count the pre-season friendlies. Whilst I can be later than the fixtures start, I mean I can arrive late, and or I may be required to depart early as I travel at public transport. I attended fixtures except 2 this season, so out of 18 I missed 2, if you don't count the pre-season friendlies. And on one of the 2 occasions I missed a Studley fixture. One of the occasions I missed a Studley fixture. I watched another fixture with my brother at Scotland. In life generally, there are many things when you don't know what to expect. A simple example is if I'm at a meal with friends, which is nice. If you're a friend of mine, hear me right here. This is nice to go to a meal with friends or to the pub. It's nobody's fault. It's just the way it is. They might not have told you. It's just the way it is. It's nobody's fault. So don't worry about it. Just saying. This said, I can know less about what is going to happen next or what time, as opposed to if I'm at a football fixture, like I said. Moving on from that, at school, I remember I timed a teacher when they said, I'll see you in a minute. I now know when someone says, I'll see you in a minute, they don't actually mean literally 1 minute, which is 60 seconds. When I was at school, a teacher said, this includes you, Laurie. Lightly, as they expected, I'd ask a question or questions later in the lesson. At the time, I may have not liked being told, this includes you, Laurie. At the way this happened, pardon me, when other school children were there. Much later in life, however, I learned what I was being told. This includes you, Laurie, was possibly a strategy which was meant to help me. Another time at school, a teacher said about, don't worry, this is an order. which may have not helped me worry less. Although again, the teacher was likely attempting to help me worry less. At the time I was diagnosed as well. At the time I wasn't diagnosed, sorry. To give some background, that was in the 1990s, about 30 years ago, nearly 30 years ago, but more late 1980s, early 1990s. So there was less information now. No, so there's definitely less information then than there is now. The feature about my Asperger syndrome is I can be too honest at times. This is not a bad thing, although a funny memory about this was when I was laughing at an art lesson at school. The teacher said about, "I'll tell your dad." I believe I shouted, "I don't care, I'll tell him anyway," or words of this meaning. I can still be literal, as I may have told a colleague very recently. Prior to this talk, food I bought cost £4.50. When I said this was going to cost £7, it doesn't actually matter. It cost £4.50, not £7. But I wanted to tell them because I said it would cost £7. When I was revising regarding my exams at school, I believe my dad suggested I limit my time revising, which is another example about anxiety when I was younger. At England at the time, the best exam result was a grade A or grade A star. I'm not sure which. I was awarded one grade B as well as one grade C at school, when the rest were D's as well as E's at school. Although it should be noted, I've still worked more than 20 years since then, if you aggregate my working history. I.e., I wasn't awarded the best exam results, but I've still been able to work quite a long time. I was awarded a further grade B when I resat a mathematics exam at school. I was awarded grade D, which is like the fourth best at maths. Then 5 years later, I was awarded a grade B, which is the second best. Grade A or grade A star would be the top. Later in school, I was working, still not diagnosed, at various placement training scheme, although these didn't all work out. This said, one place I worked at gave me a small present when I stopped working there. Further, I returned to work at a voluntary basis at one placement I'd earlier worked, one of the organisations. At one placement, I was told words to the effect regarding you won't get a job, or it will be difficult to get a job, or you won't work. I'm glad to say I proved this opinion as wrong as any words could have been said about my working history. I've worked since 2002 at the same organisation I've worked since 2002 at the same organisation, plus other work prior then. So next year is 2022, and I've worked since 2002 at the same organisation. To get to this point wasn't as smooth a journey, so to speak, as this may have been at other people's lives. Later on, the workplace was finishing, when I was, I believe, paid £35 English a week, which I then believed to be a lot of money. I was then at various college courses. The workplace was finished at the year 1994. I mean, £35 is a relatively lot of money, but it's not a lot of money to be paid in 1 week. At England, there's a benefit system, although I was anxious about studying as well as being available for work, in quotes. I stopped my benefit, although this was my anxiety affecting this decision. I was then about 19 years old, as well as crucially still not diagnosed. I recall my mum, I believe, said a doctor said I may or will grow out of it, I should say. The doctor said I may or will grow out of this thing which wasn't diagnosed when I was 19. Well, as you know, very likely know, people can learn to cope with it, as well as develop strategies to help them live their lives, although you can't grow out of a lifelong condition or disorder, because it is who you are. The same applies about being autistic or having Asperger's or anything else which is a lifelong thing. Anxiety is at times annoying, although I'm not sure I would want to be someone I am not. This is to say, if I could suddenly not be Laurie, who has mild Asperger syndrome, I'm not sure I would want this. At simple terms, I'm very wary about anyone saying I can cure your autism or Asperger syndrome. I mean, people don't generally say that, but yeah, you do hear about it. As strange as this may seem, I'm not sure I would want to be cured, as I may not be the same person. Further, there is no guarantee any cure would work. There could be side effects, as an example. Further, if people are allowed to cure autism or Asperger syndrome, this could set a dangerous example about what else would they want to start curing. Anyhow, as I say, I was at various college courses as well as I'd various work. I had excellent college exam results, although I had more anxiety at the job. A reason may have been, as at a job, this seemed more real than an exam, although at one way it was just data I was actioning at a different setting. Near the start of the year 1999, when I was still not diagnosed as a 21-year-old, I started what was my first full-time permanent job. This was at a different campus to the one I now studied at the same college. I was still not diagnosed, although I knew they would find out about this part of me I at the time could not explain very well to myself, let alone at a job interview. You can't exactly say, at a job interview, I'm a bit different, although I don't know how or why. You might not be appointed then, or you could be if they recognise your outstanding honesty. I was appointed, although eventually things started to basically collapse at the job regarding my being able to keep the job. This said, I managed to stay at the job more than 1 year at total. Plus, if my memory serves me correctly, I was given a pay raise at the time I was not working there. They basically paid me to leave, although I was not sacked. As I was working at the college, if I remember correctly, they said they would pay regarding the college course with no time limit later than me departing the job. So the offer was no time limit. They would pay for the course. Although, as this is now nearly 22 years ago, plus there's no evidence about this, no letter like they said about it, I may have left that too late. Three things which I can remember about this time as well are number one, my mum broke her plastic glasses as worried as I was about my work. An example was she was helping me about work notes. I was worried about something else altering when I altered text at the same notes. This was excessive high anxiety, and I realised if I am where I am meant to be at work at the system, I must have actioned things correctly. Pardon me. Further, it is very unlikely I would touch a button I shouldn't then not notice. I mean, I might touch a button I shouldn't, but in fact, these I'd probably notice as well. This said, if I've still checked about a mistake can be rectified at my current work. Number two, my Christian faith helps me. Going back to the time prior I was diagnosed, one time my anxiety affected my then manager so much I didn't get to the lunchtime church service I was normally allowed to attend, as my anxiety affected my manager so much she had to leave the room. Basically, she left the room, which is quite a statement. My anxiety meant someone left the room, which is quite scary when you cut things down to this basic truth. Possibly as I was used to the anxiety, it was easier regarding me coping with this anxiety than how my manager coped at this occasion. Crucially, at the time I was not diagnosed. I'm not sure if this example was when my then manager knew about my suspected Asperger syndrome or not. In fairness, it would have been a shock if she'd known or not. As knowing about my suspected Asperger syndrome is one thing, experiencing my anxiety levels at the time would have been a different thing altogether. That's what I mean, it would have been a shock how anxious I was, even if she knew about my Asperger's. My mum and or dad wrote a letter to my then employer stating about my suspected Asperger's quite near the time the job finally ended. Again, I wrote my mum and or dad wrote a letter, as literally I don't know if my mum or dad or mum and dad wrote a letter. This doesn't matter, although it is not another example about my literalness. At this point, a slight tangent to the talk, but I've got an autism card which I can show people if I'm, say, at a train station or somewhere and there's communication difficulties, I can just show my autism card and that can help the situation. A bit later, I can't see you, but I show it's slightly worn, but it just proves how much it's been used. Probably should get a replacement. Because I can explain it, but sometimes I haven't got time or the energy to explain it like I have today. So I've just showed a card. Sometimes it can help. It should help. It doesn't always, but it can. It has helped. I get that from my local autism organisation. A bit later than going back to the talk. A bit later than my employer getting this letter, they said I'd not change. But I was not likely to change as Asperger syndrome, as well as autism or lifelong conditions or disorders. I feel certain the letter they would have received would not have said I was going to change. The letter my parental parents wrote. So I just made a slide on. Positive news of what was a dark tunnel at the year 2000 of my life. The employer helped me regarding my future, to be fair to them, as I set up a meeting with a DEA, which is in England that's called, at the time it was called a Disability Employment Advisor. The DEA I then met. She happened to know about or find out about a specialised college helping people with disabilities. Nothing against anyone here, although it was a bit of a shock to be classed as, quote, disabled, although if a label helps someone, this is great. I was soon looking around the college, with my parents. Then I stayed there as well, possibly as the college was traditionally helping those who are visually impaired, which I am not. The financial funding took time to get finalised, although near the start of the year 2001, I was at the college at a course, not just at a few weeks as prior then. I was able to live at the community house. Sorry, that's the wrong page. Sorry. At the time I was finally diagnosed, which was 13th December 2000, I didn't want to be diagnosed. Although I later realised this opened so many doors to my life. This is a joke, although I was taken to my first football fixture at an English football stadium 13th December 1986. I don't believe this is a joke, because I was actually taken to my first football stadium the same date I was diagnosed at a different year. The joke is I don't believe my football watching caused my mild Asperger syndrome, although the date being the same as my later diagnosis is striking. I can remember dates regarding football fixtures or when we moved house or when my parents were ordained as priests. I believe this is linked to my mild Asperger syndrome. For example, someone else may not remember my mum and dad were ordained the 2nd of July 1989 and 1995. They just might remember they were ordained. My diagnosis has helped me a lot. I know not everyone may want to be diagnosed, although I can quote Claire Sainsbury's book called Martian in a Playground, revised edition, which states at page 44, not about me, you understand. Quote, when I didn't have an official diagnostic label, my teachers unofficially labelled me as emotionally disturbed, rude, and so on. And my classmates unofficially labelled me weirdo, nerd, and freak. Frankly, I prefer the official label. It's a stigma that's attached to me being different, which is a problem, not the label. That's a book called Martian in the Playground by Claire Sainsbury from Sage Publications. If anyone wants to look it up, or they can contact me via the organisers of this meeting. I like this as this encourages diagnosis, although there is work to do about everyone accepting everyone else, especially those who are different. Sorry. Going back to my life, without being arrogant, I didn't require another college course regarding my educational history or qualifications. This said, the time later than when I lost my job was not an easy time. This was a dark time of my life. I may have acquired the college course to help my confidence, although not regarding the qualification. This said, the more qualifications someone has, the better, although there was some possibility people could be overqualified. I remember being very happy when someone's willing to let me work at their office despite not being paid this time. Not being paid was not something I remember being bothered about. The work was part of the course, or in my case, this was true. I was just very happy someone was willing to give me an opportunity to work at a real office again when I lost a job the previous year. Simply, as I said, my Christian faith helps me. I happened to be at a church near someone I didn't know who happened to work at a community house, which happened to be near the college, as well as college accommodation, where I was living at the time. Whatever you believe or don't believe, this is a lot of just happenings to be just happened, in my opinion. I was able to live at a community house at a room at the years 2002 to 2009. Then I moved to a flat where I'm sitting now. Basically, this is more my own space on the same house, and I've lived at the flat since 2009. At a tangent to my main talk, although this is interesting as well as worthwhile point to remember. Yes, my family moved around when I was younger, as my dad's work meant we moved. This was not about my disorders. The point is, my very disorders helped me locate my own flat, which I've lived at since 2009. I've not lived anywhere as long at a continuous time as my current address. Prior I was diagnosed, I knew I was different, although a friend said, "How did you know you were different?" I suppose I knew. I worried more than most people, as an example. And the slide says about my diagnosis open doors to the world and to understanding and to employment, which I mentioned. And there's a photo of me at Mexico with a item a gift they gave me. They gave a talk there. My work today, I've currently worked at the same organisation since 5th of June 2002. This was a bit more than 2 years since the old job ended at the college, although the time gap may have seemed more than 2 years. Basically, things happened quite quickly, but at the time it might not have seemed to be happening quickly. Whilst I still can worry likely far more than most colleagues, the mere fact I'm still employed nearly 20 years later than when I started should or could help me worry less about things. As you know, anxiety can be a mindset, which can mean someone like me can worry about things which are seemingly nothing, especially when there's nothing else to worry about, or if there are less things to worry about. I can almost invent worries, although I've thought about seeing if I can worry less at times, or at least share less anxiety. What I mean by that is ask less questions and send less emails or messages about things. Just experience it without telling people what you're worrying about or saying it as much, because that might feed the anxiety cycle less. With some people, I've support regarding my work via an organisation called Autism West Midlands. One support worker encouraged me to postpone anxiety. This is like I say, is to not share anxiety or ask questions immediately someone like me is worrying about things, as later the anxiety could seem less. Clearly, the person should be able to decide if an anxiety is more urgent, as not everything can wait till later. Not everything will just seem less if this is not said. This said, postponing anxiety can help, so you have to exercise judgment, but it could help. The support I've received has helped. An example is I've been able to email someone outside the organisation I work at about work. My diagnosis has helped me to be able to explain who I am to managers, which very likely helps them with their work as they can understand me better, or why I check things a lot. Like I said, as you know, Asperger's or autism are lifelong disorders. I've still understood words more literally than they were meant to be. A funny example is when I was asked to clean the tea towels out of the washing machine. This was years ago now, although I was an adult then. I was told there was liquid to clean the tea towels near the washing machine. I must have understood there was liquid near the tea towels near the washing machine. Too literally, I just didn't check the liquid, which was a paint liquid. This is one thing I could have checked more. So basically, I put paint liquid in the washing machine. But I did realise prior I cleaned the tea towels. However, as far as I can recall, they've never asked me to clean the tea towels again. Another example, more recently, is when I'm at a shop, they say they are closed. Understand now they mean they are closing, although they are not literally closed. Not at the most literal sense, as I just walk through the door. Because if a shop is closed, why don't they lock the door? It's a simple thing. Our examples about how I've experienced the world, and I've got mild Asperger syndrome. Remember, I've got mild Asperger syndrome. I'm only just on the spectrum, so my story is like probably one of the slightest forms of it. Like I say, I wouldn't want to be cured of it, but it's a bit complicated because I wouldn't want to severe autism for anyone, but I wouldn't want to be cured of what I've got. So I didn't put that in the notes. I know the diagnostic terminology could be different today. I wouldn't want to be cured, like I say. My literal understanding hasn't always helped my life. Another example when I was at Birmingham Airport, I was asked about, has anyone given you anything? This is quite funny. I was said about yes. I said yes, someone gave me something like that, because someone gave me chocolate to give to my host person at South Africa. I believe that's when I was going to South Africa, because my dad knew somebody who knew somebody in South Africa, and someone gave me some chocolate to take to give to the person. The point is, the airport security people didn't mean someone giving you chocolate, because although literally they gave me chocolate, they didn't mean someone, when they said someone give you something, they meant a dangerous thing. They didn't say that properly. They said, "Has anyone given you anything?" If I remember correctly, they checked my suitcase at the airport. Another example, I think they checked my suitcase at the airport because I believe they checked my suitcase at the airport because I said someone gave me something, because I misunderstood what they meant. Another example is at the Bible where it says about 153 fish. I like the literalness about 153 fish, as this is, whatever you choose to believe, a very exact number. 153 is not 150. I like to believe someone who was possibly autistic then counted the fish exactly. I'm nearly finished. My hopes regarding the future. My hopes regarding the future, what can we do to help the autistic community? Listen to them, get them to tell you their hopes, their stories, their dreams. Don't tell them they can't or may not work as I was told. Can't is nothing. Number 2, understand why they can be frustrated. Give them time to tell you how they understand the world. This can help when they are frustrated or angry, as I can be at times. I've not gone into that because I'm trying to give a positive slide, positive, good on the positive side. But there are times I've been angry and frustrated. A lot of times that's linked to my Asperger syndrome in some way. Number 3, remember to create the support mechanisms such as I've experienced. A loving family around me. I remember my dad, who is no longer in this world, simply watching me chase the leaves. This is a precious memory amongst many. This is also important. Train as well as employ sufficiently autism-trained disability employment advisors to help those who are adults who can work. Because there are probably people who can work who are not working. Create supportive housing like I've got, enabling those who can live at their own flats to live at their own homes. Whether it's a flat or a house, I should say. Remember, I was told about I might not work. Since then, I've worked nearly 20 years at the same organisation. Additionally, I've travelled to South Africa as well as Mexico to give talks at World Autism Congresses. Can't is nothing. Quite literally, my diagnosis has opened doors I would have never have dreamed possible. One final thought is the human race sent people to the moon. Surely we can help our disabled people. Thank you for listening. And I don't know how this is going to work because I've never done a talk on this setup before, but if anyone's got any questions, they can ask me.
Can you hear me, Laurie?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, I can. It was really a great lecture, to be honest. I think more than 120 people listened to you at this point.
Thank you.
This will be This is recorded, so everybody will be able to see it. Those that couldn't make it today. I have a question for you.
Yeah.
Do you like your work? Do you enjoy your work?
Sometimes. I mean, I mind about my work sometimes, but I'm lucky. I like my work.
Okay,
Come.
Which part of your work do you like? What do you like about your work?
I like the fact I help customers. I'm not really sure if I should mention exactly where I work. I hope you understand that, but I like the fact I help people in the world through my work. Yeah.
Right.
And I help colleagues as well.
Okay. So if something happens at work that is unexpected for you, do you get anxiety, or you learn to cope with it?
It depends what it is. Sometimes I would get anxiety if something changed at work. Fortunately, I might get a bit angry at work or a bit upset, but there are things I can do to manage that.
That's good. Okay. Yes.
So yeah, I mean, it depends what it is, but sometimes things happen which things change at work, or I might get upset or misunderstand something. But there are people I can talk to, or something might happen outside work at lunchtime. But there are people I can talk to at work. I mean, one thing I would say is I work in the public sector, which is probably more kinder than the private sector.
Yes. It's also more secure, the job, isn't it?
Probably, yeah.
Okay, yes. And now with the COVID, were you working from home, or you were? How did that work?
I was offered a choice to work at home, but I chose to still go to work.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, that's good to hear. Okay, perfect. Thank you so much for giving this presentation. It was very inspiring, interesting, and different. And I'm sure listeners enjoyed listening to this kind of stories. We should hear more of them. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Take care.